That's absolutely right. Thank you, Kofi. What's up, Michael? Do you support Trump?
What?
Do you support Trump?
Yes.
You have a lot of background noise, man. What can we do to mute that?
Sorry, hold on one second. Sorry. All right. Yes, I support Trump.
Much better now. Okay, man. Why do you support the worst president, the worst predator president of your goddamn life?
Why is he a predator?
Why is he a predator? He was held civilly liable for the rape of E. Jean Carroll. He boasted about sexually exploiting naked little girls and naked adult women to Howard Stern in 2005 on his radio show. And he's named in the Epstein emails. Epstein said that, of course, Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing to those girls, meaning that Donald Trump was best friends with one of the largest billionaire child sex exploiters in modern American history, knew he was exploiting women and girls and did and said nothing, and has been lying about it to us for the last 20 years, on top of many other things as well, like telling a 10-year-old girl that he'd be dating her in 10 years, sexualizing her in the 90s, saying that he'd be dating his own daughter if she wasn't his daughter, calling her a hot piece of ass, agreeing with Howard Stern when he suggested that, and many other examples, but I think we'll start there.
Okay, the Howard Stern interview, was it specifically young children that he was talking about?
It was women and girls. So it was 15-year-olds through 25.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay, so he never said children. He said it was backstage. He never said anything about a dressing room. He said people were getting dressed at a, was it Miss Universe or a beauty pageant?
Okay.
They would have their own dressing rooms. They would be getting dressed backstage.
Oh. So you think it just happened to women, not to children?
Yes.
So he sexually exploited women.
Well, I wouldn't say he sexually exploited them.
Well, let's see if we could agree on what sexual exploitation is. Can we agree that sexual exploitation would include the abuse of a position of power over the position of vulnerability of one else for the furtherance of sexual gratification?
Yeah, sure.
So he abused his position of power by allowing himself to barge into the women's dressing room where there was no men around, to then look at the undressed, naked women with no clothes on.
He never said women's dressing room.
Do you just want to listen to the clip?
Sure.
For sure. For sure. And of course, they were in a dressing room, considering the fact that they're getting dressed, they were naked, and there's no men around. That's what we call a woman's dressing room. Let's go and listen to the clip.
He didn't say dressing room.
That's what a dressing room is. He described the dressing room.
Okay.
Right? Like imagine that we're listening to Donald Trump, describe a chair. He was like, well, I sat down on this thing with 4 long legs that had contact with the floor, and on top of these 4 long legs was a square-shaped platform attached to all 4 long legs, and on the back of that square-shaped platform attached to the 4 long legs was a rectangular piece of wood at a 90-degree angle attached to the square platform and the 4 long legs. And then I was like, Donald Trump was talking about a chair. Then you were like, but he never said chair.
That was a decent impression.
But let's go ahead and listen to what Donald Trump said.
In my country, we say hello with vagina. And
well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it,
Oh, shit. There we go. He said I'm allowed to go in. Go into a space where there's naked women with no men around where they're getting dressed, women's dressing room. Let's go ahead and continue to listen, though.
I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
like
everything is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
There you go.
When was that clip from?
2005.
How old were you in 2005?
I was 1 year old.
You were 1 year old in 2005?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the context of things change over time.
Yeah. So let's contextualize sexual exploitation in 2005.
What I'm saying is things are considered appropriate at different times in history.
Oh.
Like for hundreds of years, people use the N-word.
Okay.
Talk about black people.
Okay, so if your mother came to you and she said, in the 90s, I was getting dressed in a changing room with no men around, and I was naked, then the owner of that changing room barged in unconsensually to look at me while I was naked, and then your mother followed that up by saying, hey, I got sexually exploited. You'd respond to her by saying, guess what, mother? You actually weren't sexually exploited. right?
We're
I
using
don't, I don't,
my
one
mother
moment,
as an
I don't
example
care
to
that you're,
be
one
emotionally
moment,
attached
I
to
don't, I
the
don't, I don't
situation.
care that what you're explaining to me is a man abusing his position of power over your position of vulnerability and furtherance of unconsensual sexual gratification. In mere virtue of the fact that it was the 90s, it's not sexual exploitation, right? This is like saying, right, because 500 years ago, 50-year-old men would marry and engage, not engage in sex, rape like 12-year-old girls at mass globally, that wasn't child rape because of the time. Or arguing that enslavement wasn't enslavement, but rather just the norm because of the time. Go ahead and unmute. I muted you because you interrupted me, but I hope I debunked your silly little shit point.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was saying was that things are appropriate depending on what time they're in. Obviously, marrying a 12-year-old is wrong, and we can all agree that that's wrong, but hundreds of years ago, that wasn't wrong. It's still not wrong in multiple countries across the world, but morally, that's wrong. Everybody would agree that.
So you would argue that you think if a man were to rape a 14-year-old, 12-year-old girl 500 years ago, that was not wrong.
No.
Of course it was wrong.
Thank you for your concession.
Rape is wrong.
But child marriage isn't?
Of course it is.
Okay, so
Muhammad,
then if a man were to marry a 12-year-old girl 500 years ago, that would have been wrong, right?
yeah.
So if a man were to unconsensually barge into a woman's dressing room to unconsensually look at them while they're naked 20 years ago, that would have been wrong.
Yeah, I mean, of course it's wrong if you barge into a dressing room. He was on a show that was, okay, what is the Howard Stern show known for? Being like
Shock jock.
sexually explicit. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He was on a show
Yeah. What is Chris Hansen known for?
catching predators. What's your point?
All right. Well, I think my point is that you don't have one.
Okay, Howard Stern show is a shock jock show meant to objectify women. That was the whole point of the show. It's not around anymore because Howard Stern turned into a pussy. But
Oh, wow. Wow. So you think real men objectify women?
no, I'm just saying he lost
I
his
mean,
edge.
that kind of just sound like what you said. You said only weak pussy men don't objectify women.
No, he started caring
Right,
about
right,
whatever
right.
he
Yeah,
wanted.
the moment you're a man and you care about other people, you're a pussy. See, this is the problem with toxic masculinity. You think that an alpha is an
Toxic
egotistical,
masculinity.
narcissistic, self-centered asshole that doesn't care about anyone outside of themselves. This is just a mere projection and cope of your own lack of self-worth, your own lack of a good self-image, and your own insecurities that you then like to turn around and project on the women around you to make yourself relatively feel better, when in all, you're just a sad POS. Now, if you want to object to that, feel free, but let's also make sure that we're staying on topic and re-referencing that it is the case that in 2005, Donald Trump openly boasted about sexual exploitation of women and girls to Howard Stern. And in response to this, by saying, well, the point of the show was to objectify and shit on women. Okay, right? So Donald Trump shared his own personal anecdote of how he's objectified and shit on women by sharing the fact that he sexually exploited them. This doesn't change the fact that he has sexually exploited them, nor does it change the fact that that's incredibly immoral, and you're actively supporting a man like that as president today.
What's your opinion of Howard Stern today?
I don't follow Howard Stern, but I don't like him.
You don't like him today?
And hopefully we don't even really need to talk about
Why
Dean
is
Withers'
that?
thoughts on Howard Stern today, because it is
Why
in
is
no
that?
scope or no sense related to any point that I just made.
I guarantee you, if you heard Howard Stern say something about his opinions today of politics and the social norms, you would totally agree with him.
Okay, so you're saying that me and Howard Stern maybe share some
I'm
opinions on
saying,
the current
I'm saying the
political
difference
state of the world.
is that
And,
Howard
and
Stern
what,
is...
and what relevance does this bear to the conversation that we're having about any of the points that I just made surrounding how, like, you're a weak narcissist, surrounding how the sense of masculinity that you just described as toxic, or surrounding how this objection, arguing that, well, the point of Howard Stern's show was to shit on and objectify women, doesn't change the fact that Donald Trump's way of doing that was to sexually exploit them per his own admittance and testimony of victims.
What I'm saying is Howard Stern today, you would agree with, because he has come out and
What I'm saying is that you're pivoting. Please
apologized
stay
for
on
his
topic.
past sins. People aren't the same today as they were, what, 20 years ago?
Okay, so the new argument is that you do accept that 20 years ago Donald Trump sexually exploited women and or girls, but you just think that he's different today?
I'm saying today that 20 years ago Donald Trump said things that probably, in today's standards, would be considered sexualizing women.
Whoa.
Not
Wait.
girls.
I think that we just need to get a very clear answer here. Do you agree that he sexually exploited the women and or girls at Miss Teen USA and or Miss USA?
No, there
Okay.
are no girls. What girls are you talking about?
Okay. We'll move
I didn't
on.
hear girls in that interview you showed. I didn't hear the word girls ever.
About the conflict a little bit later on.
The question is, how can it not be construed?
No, I mean, some of these foreign girls, Mr. Trump in my country.
Thanks.
Okay, that was Howard Stern saying girls.
All right. Well, we'll get on. I'll get on to giving you the evidence that he did this to teens at Miss Teen USA in a bit. I expect that there will be a lot of sophistry involved. But just to make this simple for now, okay, he only did it to women. Once again, just for the intents and purposes of this conversation, he also did it to teens. I'll give you the evidence in a bit. Do you accept that he sexually exploited those women?
No.
Okay. All right. Why not? Considering the fact that you agreed that sexual exploitation would include the abuse of a position of power over the position of vulnerability of one else and the furtherance of unconsensual sexual gratification. And I explained to you that's exactly what Donald Trump did when he abused his position of power to allow himself to barge into that space without the consent of the women in that space, and the abuse of their position of vulnerability. Of course, that being that they felt comfortable and vulnerable enough to take their clothes off, to be naked, to put new clothes on, since it was a woman's only space, and how that does indeed amount to a perfect parallel of the definition of sexual exploitation that you agreed to. I expect a cogent and intellectual counter-rebuttal to that argument. Of course, I don't think that you'll be able to give one to me because one doesn't exist, and this is all pedantic sophistry that ultimately paints you to be a potential threat.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. If
I don't
a
want a
bunch
question,
of
I want
gay
a
men were
response.
back,
I don't want a question, I want a response.
Gay men are costume designers and people that would be in dressing rooms, right? Women don't feel uncomfortable if there's a gay man around because he's gay, right?
So
if a straight man is back there, what's the difference?
Okay. Wow. So point number one, the difference in this scenario, if there was gay costume designers, right, backstage with the contestants of Miss USA helping them put their makeup
They
on.
often are.
If there was, right, well, the difference in that scenario would be consent, right? The fact that the women consented to having the gay costume designers back there to help them do their makeup, so on and so forth. And they did not consent to Donald Trump going back there. But of course, this is now a detachment from reality, considering the fact that in that clip, Donald Trump said there was no men there.
Did he say that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, on you. I still don't think he's a misogynist who sexualized women.
Oh, well, it'd be sexual
and sexually
exploitation.
abused women. I don't think it'd be a sexual exploitation
Okay.
of women.
Well,
If the
think.
man
I
who
want
runs
you to listen
the man
to.
who runs the pageant comes backstage while they're dressing. I don't think that's sexual exploitation. Sexual exploitation is like, hey, let me sexually abuse or sell a woman sexually. That would be sexual exploitation. I don't think walking backstage when a woman's undressing would be sexual exploitation.
I have to try really hard to keep my temper with men like you. I'm getting a lot better at it. Earlier,
Go ahead, man.
Earlier, I defined sexual exploitation to include the abuse of position of power over the abuse of over the position of vulnerability of one else and the furtherance of unconsensual sexual conduct. Now, do you still agree with that definition?
I don't know. You talk really fast. I don't know.
Let me slow it down. Sexual exploitation would include the abuse of one's position of power over the position of vulnerability of one else in the furtherance of unconsensual sexual conduct. Do you agree?
What's sexual conduct?
Sexual conduct would include many things.
Like
Conducting in a way sexually
dressing?
with one else, like sex, like making out, like kissing, or even viewing one's naked body, because it would promote sexual gratification. I would say an action would be sexual conduct if it would promote generally sexual gratification.
If he walked backstage and was like, "Hey, nice
No.
tits,"
Can you agree with my definition of sexual exploitation?
Okay, say it again.
Wow. Sexual exploitation would include the abuse of a position of power over the position of vulnerability of one else in the furtherance of unconsensual sexual conduct.
If a boss tells his secretary, fuck me or you're going to get fired, yeah, that would be sexual exploitation.
Thank you for an example of exactly what I just described.
Okay.
Now, can you please tell me if you agree or disagree with the definition of sexual exploitation that I just gave you? I want to go one. I want to go 1 point at a time.
If sexual conduct occurred, then yeah.
Do you think that viewing one naked, right, in this sense would be sexual conduct?
No.
Okay, so if you don't think that the viewership of somebody naked in this sense would be sexual conduct, I'm going to use your analogy against you. Okay? You said if a boss said, fuck me or you're fired to a secretary, that would be sexual exploitation. What if the boss said, let me see you naked or you're fired? See, now, in accordance, oh, but you just said that viewing somebody naked is not sexual conduct, and that's why you reject it to be sexual exploitation in the context of Trump. But now you're actually conceding that unconsensually viewing somebody naked is sexual conduct. Therefore, what Donald Trump did to the women is sexual exploitation.
If the boss specifically said, let me see you naked or you're fired, yeah, but that wasn't the case.
Well, what is the case in that analogy is the boss abusing his position of power by saying, let me see you naked or you're fired. The exertion of the power and control would be over the ability to fire that secretary. Now, the way that Donald Trump is abusing his position of power and what he did to the contestants of Miss USA would be by allowing himself to go into that space.
He runs the pageant.
Right, exactly. He doesn't run the women's bodies. Wait, exactly. He owns the pageant. He doesn't own their bodies.
It would be very acceptable for him to be backstage, like walking around.
And why is that?
Because he runs the pageant.
Okay, because it's his building. So that boss and that secretary in that analogy, does that boss run the business?
Yeah.
So if that secretary was using the restroom, would it be acceptable because he runs the business to go into that business's woman's restroom?
No, because he didn't say, he didn't see you naked or you're fired.
Right. And the reason why it wouldn't be acceptable for that boss to go into the woman's restroom, even though he runs the business, is because why?
Because it's a women's restroom.
Okay,
it's not a dressing.
Well, it was a woman's changing room. Exactly. It still wouldn't be acceptable, right, for that boss to go into the woman's restroom and look at the women in that space using the restroom, because although he owns the business, he doesn't own the bodies of those women, and that is a private women's space designed for them to use a restroom. Very similarly, although Donald Trump ran and owned the pageant, he didn't run and own those women's bodies. Therefore, right, it was unacceptable and incredibly immoral for him to walk into that private women's only space where they were getting undressed and naked. Once again, I mean, I don't know why we need to make this too complex, as it's very simple to understand that if a woman, right, is only willing to take her clothes off and be naked in a space with no men, exerting the fact that she would feel uncomfortable with men viewing her body naked, as it would be unconsensual, that therefore what Donald Trump did was wrong. I remember learning this in fourth grade. Not even joking. I remember in fourth grade, I had a nun at the Catholic school I went to at the time walk into my classroom and speak to me and everybody else in that classroom, right, about how adults shouldn't touch you in the no-no squares, right, about how if like an older person shouldn't follow you in the bathroom to want to look at you, so on and so forth, right? Like, why am I having to explain, right, that it's wrong to view somebody naked when they don't want you to view them naked, and that no means no? Like, honestly, I think everything you've told us is scary. I think it tells us a lot about you, that you don't think no means no, right? You think that no means negotiable.
Okay, so in fourth grade, you're what, 10 years old? Of course you wouldn't want an adult following you in the bathroom. If you're a 20-year-old woman who competes in pageants, I'm sure you've been in a space where men are naked before.
So now
it's
you're
not an abnormal thing.
So what's the antithesis of this position? What is the conclusion? Is the conclusion of this argument that you think the women were okay with it, or you don't care that the women weren't okay with it?
20-year-old models
I just want to know.
No.
Is the conclusion of the argument here that you think the women were okay with it, or you don't care that they weren't okay with it?
I think the women that compete in pageants probably have men see them naked often. If you're a 20-year-old model, men have seen you naked.
Can I just know, right? Like what the conclusion here is, right? Right. And by the way, no, being a beauty pageant contestant doesn't necessitate that men see you naked often. All right. I find that to be right and incredibly like and obviously false, considering the nature of a beauty pageant, right? Is not to go on stage naked and be judged, but to rather go on stage with like different clothes, like dresses and whatnot, and be judged. But even if the nature of being a beauty pageant contestant was to be often viewed naked by men, right? Still yet what you'd be forgetting in this context is consent. Like let's think about the nature of another job where it is frequent to be viewed naked by men, like being a corn star, right? So in being a corn star, of course, you have a bunch of people view you naked in the videos that you produce. Still yet, does this make it okay to infringe on the consent of that corn star if they are naked at their house and opening their blinds and snapping a picture and posting it on the internet? Absolutely not, because they have asserted consent against that.
If a corn star opens her blinds naked...
No. Not that the corn star opened up her blinds, right? But rather that somebody opened up her blinds for her and snapped a picture of her while she was naked and changing against her own will.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Okay, right, and so
Okay,
once again, corn stars aren't beauty pageant contestants, but what Donald Trump did do to the beauty pageant contestants was to open up the door, right, to that dressing room, go into that private women's only space with no men around and look at them while they had no clothes on and being an unconsensual example of sexual conduct. I hate that I'm having to explain consent to an old man. It makes me very worried about what you do during your free time.
Okay, first of all, you said, I don't think that beauty pageant contestants, many men see them naked.
Yeah, I did say that.
Which means men see them naked.
I said that I don't think many men see them naked.
Okay, which means men see them naked. Probably the men that are backstage during beauty pageants.
Oh, wait,
see them naked while they're
wait.
changing.
When I say that I don't think many men would see them naked, that doesn't imply that therefore men see them naked. It implies the opposite. That's just how we use language. Are you dumb?
No, I'm not dumb.
Okay,
but I mean,
you really sound dumb.
I don't think many men would be backstage seeing them naked, which means that men backstage would see them naked.
I didn't even know like what he's, huh? No clue what this idiot's saying.
I know you speak a lot of words and like you're very fast.
So once again, no men.
Minutes ago,
no men were in that space.
Okay. Was it a women's only space? Was it a woman's bathroom?
Yeah, it was. Yes, exactly. It was a woman's only space.
If it was a women's only space, why did they open it up and let Donald Trump walk backstage?
Well, they didn't, right? Donald Trump opened it up, not them.
Oh, I mean, the guy that owns the building that was like hosting the pageant?
Yes, the guy that owns the building, not the guy that owns
Big shocker.
the bodies. Right, we've already went through this, like the line of dialogue too, and that analogy of like the boss owning the building, owning the business, right? It would still be wrong for him to open up.
No, you went through that analogy. I don't believe that.
Opening up the woman's
That's not a comparison of a boss saying, "Get naked, I'm gonna fire you."
No. The analogy, no. The analogy was the boss owning the building, owning the business, having a female employee, then following her into the restroom unconsensually. Using your logic, that would be okay since he owned the building and owned the business.
Hey, Dean, have you ever been in
Wait. I'm so sorry. Can you refute that? Using your logic, it would be okay for the owner of a business to follow one of their female employees into the women's restroom and unconsensually look at them while they're using the restroom in mere virtue of the fact that he owned the building and business. That is what your logic implies.
No, that's not my logic.
How so? Because that's what you're saying about Trump. You're saying the reason why it's okay for Donald Trump to unconsensually view the women naked is because he owned the building, he owned the pageant. So how that logic not track in suggesting that your logic would imply that if another man owned another business, owned another building, that therefore using your logic, it would be okay for him to unconsensually follow a female employee into the women's restroom and look at her while she's naked in virtue of the fact that he owned the building and owned the business, just like you're arguing that it's okay for Donald Trump to unconsensually view these women while they're naked in virtue of the fact that he owned the building that they were competing in.
You make a comparison between the guy owning the business and following a woman in the women's bathroom, which is obviously wrong. Everybody would agree that's wrong.
If it's obviously wrong for a business owner to unconsensually follow a woman into the woman's restroom, then why is it not obviously wrong for a business owner to unconsensually follow women into a woman's dressing room? Right, because the only thing the only thing relevant that we're changing here would be the case in one scenario it's a restroom, and then in the other scenario it's a changing room.
So 20 years ago, Donald Trump said on a shock jock radio station, that he went backstage and saw women undressing at a beauty pageant. So you think Donald Trump's a pervert because of that?
So I think that Donald Trump is a pervert because he abused his position of power to unconsensually go into a woman's dressing room and look at the naked women in that space. Yeah, you fucking idiot. And you're trying to say that as if this is something that makes me look bad because I'm just simply standing up for women and girls. I'm standing up for victims. Meanwhile, you're standing up for the perpetuators of sexual violence. I think that you need to get a grip, grow a brain because you obviously don't have one, and man the fuck up because this is embarrassing bullshit. And beyond embarrassing, it's harmful. The fact that I'm trying to convince a man that it's wrong to follow women into a dressing room just tells me so much about your character and what you've already done or what you will likely do in the future if you haven't already because you think that that's acceptable. All right, obviously, because you're a POS little man, you want to see women naked. Ooga booga caveman, I love boobs, that's your mentality. And because in attachment to said mentality, you think it's morally acceptable to view women unconsensually naked and you don't view that as a form of sexual violence and sexual exploitation, it is incredibly likely that you will do that in the future in your virtue of the fact that you want to see women naked. Right? And I just this is seriously where the country's at. Hey, you're going to listen to the real man speak for another 30 seconds. Sit down, Bucko.
Right? 20-year-old man.
Yeah. I'm a real man, realer than you, not because of how many times I've been around the sun in my lifetime, but because of my capability to understand that sexual violence is wrong.
Okay.
You say okay like a good little boy. You take that because you can't argue against it.
Yeah. You're really showing your colors here, man.
I'm so sorry, man. If you think that I'm showing my colors because I'm just simply suggesting that you're weak and harmful for thinking that sexual violence is okay, that tells me all I need to know about you, right? Oh my God, exposing Dean Withers. He's really showing his colors because he thinks sexual exploitation is wrong. Tells me everything that I need to know about you.
You're such a soy boy, dude. You're such a beta.
Right, exactly. You think it's beta to think that violence is bad.
No, you're beta because you're defending a non-existent issue.
Oh, no, let me correct your statement. It's not that I'm defending a non-existent issue. It's that I'm defending an issue that you think is non-existent because you have no brain. I'm glad I could correct you. Oh, and if you have a brain, well, then you're obviously not using it. And if you have a brain and you are using it and you're still telling these conclusions, then you are intentionally and viscerally harmful.
You ever been to a beauty pageant, Dean?
Have I ever been to a beauty pageant? No. But you know who has? Trump. And what did Trump say? That it was a space with no men around where the women were naked and he allowed himself in and he got away with it because he was the owner.
Do you know what the norms are at a beauty pageant backstage?
Well, obviously I won it, right? But I know one of them. I know one of the norms. I know one of the norms in any woman's dressing room, regardless if that woman's dressing room is at a retail store, at a Kohl's, or at a beauty pageant. It is that in that space, only women are allowed.
Okay, a Kohl's dressing room is much different than a backstage at a beauty pageant.
I don't think that a Kohl's dressing room is too much different from a beauty pageant dressing room in the
You've never
relevant
been to a beauty
sense that these are
pageant.
spaces for women only where there's no men around.
Have you ever been to a runway show?
Wait, have you ever been backstage at a beauty pageant?
Of course I haven't.
Oh, okay. So then what the hell would you know? What the hell would you know? Peter, appreciate you for the flying jets. Yeah, you've never been backstage at a beauty pageant, right? Yet you're suggesting that I don't know what I'm talking about because I've never been backstage at a beauty pageant. How about this? Let's see if we could agree on one thing. So Miss Arizona spoke out in 2001, and she said, swipe in and out of the app because your shitty ass is a shitty echo.
Right now.
Swipe in and out of the... Okay, it's gone now. So how about that? So see if we could agree on this. Miss Arizona from Miss USA spoke out in 2001 and said that Donald Trump walked backstage, okay, while she was naked and looked at her naked body, right? She also spoke out and talked about how this was unconsensual and she really didn't like it because it was unconsensual. Can we agree on the basis that Donald Trump was viewing the bodies of these women unconsensually?
If that was true, then yes.
Is it ever okay to view the naked body of a woman unconsensually?
Well, it depends on the circumstance. I would say that consent is given. If
What the fuck? Wait, let me repeat the question. Let me repeat the question. Wow. 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 Okay. Let me repeat the question. Is it ever okay to view the naked body of a woman unconsensually for sexual gratification? Unmute. I sent you an invite to do so.
What's sexual gratification? That was never mentioned before.
Something you will never experience in your life by a woman.
Did he have his dick in his hand when he walked in?
Sexual gratification is something that you will never experience in your life from a woman because every individual you have pursued filed a restraining order less than 24 hours after originally meeting you.
I've been married for 20 years, Dean.
Wow, I feel so bad for your wife. I think that
My
she
wife
needs
is
to...
extremely happy. Much happier than your wife you'll have.
Let me guess. And you're going to assume that too. Just like you like to assume consent of women, you're going to assume that your wife is happy.
I assure she's happy.
Okay, actually, let me ask you a question about that because I could hear in the background say, no, I
Would you like to
promise.
speak to you?
Sounds like, yeah, sure. Why don't we put her on the mic?
Okay, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, would it be wrong if you were changing in a dressing room and you were naked and then a man went into that dressing room without your knowledge and against your consent to look at you while you were naked?
I'd be fine with it if I was in a dressing room.
Ah! Oh my God! Whoa, dude! Who am I talking to? Oh my, dude, who is this? Yeah, you better be done. Who the hell am I talking to right now? Dude, you guys are willing to literally say, what about you? Back to the husband. Would you be okay? So your wife just said that she'd be fine with somebody sexually exploiting her against her will, without her knowledge and against her consent. Would you be fine with an older man walking into her dressing room without your wife's consent and against your wife's will to view her while she is naked in that space?
If my wife was in a beauty pageant and it was like a normal thing.
No, unconsensually, without her consent. Without her consent. Without her consent. Wait, just answer the question. She's naked. She's undressed without her consent. If a man walked into there and looked at her while she's naked without her consent, would you be fine with that?
If it was in a beauty pageant, yes.
Ah, dude! Okay. Brother! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God, we're so cooked. This country's cooked. America is unfathomably cooked. Unbelievably cooked. Not normal. The right is trying to normalize sexual violence. They are coming for you. For the women and the girls watching this live, they're coming for you. They are. Absolutely. Undeniably. You're not safe in this country with this type of rhetoric. You are not safe. Okay? When we get to this point, all right, where every single day we talk to these people, they say, I would be fine with my wife being sexually exploited. I am fine with these other women and girls being sexually exploited. That dude from the other day saying, why is child rape wrong? Okay, that guest from earlier saying, I don't care about child rape. This guest saying, I would be fine with my wife being sexually exploited, and I am fine with those other women and girls being sexually exploited. Okay, right? Women and girls, you're not safe in this country with this rhetoric. You're not. You are not safe. Okay? This is an apocalyptic, dystopian-esque world that we are barreling towards, that we already live in. Okay? Right? Where sexual violence, sexual exploitation, unconsensual sexual conduct is permitted, allowed, and accepted. You're not safe. You are not safe. And now that I've said everything that I want to say about the harm, the violence, and the atrocity suggested in the last thing that you had to say, one other thing detached from that harm, atrocity, and violence is you're a goddamn cuck.
Hey, Dean. You there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you unmuted me now. So
I'm going to mute you again. You could unmute now, but because we're fine with doing whatever we want to other people against their will and their consent, you should take no issue with me muting you. I just did it, you know, logic, your logic, fine with doing whatever to whomever else for whatever reason. You're cook, kid. Go ahead and unmute again. Come on. Come on, bitch. Unmute. Unmute. Stop hiding, bitch. Unmute. There you go.
okay, I just got my unmute back. So I saw like you were saying.
One second, interrupting you again because you're fine with it. Marin, thank you so much for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. Appreciate you for that love. Marin says, this is why grape is so common. Yes, you are right. Thank you for the $10, Marin. You are right. You are absolutely right. 110% right. Undeniably correct. Nobody can deny that. Over on PayPal, Mel, thank you for the $10. I really appreciate you so much for the love. Mel with the $10 says, guess what is sexual gratification? Dean, something you'll never experience with a woman. I am dying. Well, it was true. Iris, thank you so much for the $5 over on PayPal, who says beauty pageants are not strip clubs. Even in strip clubs, you can't go backstage and look at the naked strippers. You'll get fucking kicked out and banned for life because that's still sexual exploitation. Ondine, thank you so much for the $15 over on PayPal. I appreciate you for that love. Thank you so much, Ondine. Marin, thank you so much for the $20 over on PayPal. And that is M-A-R-A-N. Please show some love to Marin down below in that chat, who says, as a woman who's experienced unconsensual sexual advances and acts, I would love to tear into these weirdos. Oh, undoubtedly. I'm really sorry to hear that that's happened to you. I bet you love to tear into these motherfuckers. They're terrible. Laura, thank you for the $20 over on PayPal with no message. Just the $20. That is LARA. Please show some love to Laura down below. Russell, thank you for the $25 on PayPal, who says, it's a cult, it's a cult, it's a damn cult. Yes, 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 yes. Kathy, thank you so much for the $100 over on PayPal. Oh my God, I want to see 1,000 W Kathy's down below in that chat, who says, thank you for sticking up for women. Get rid of this POS, Michael. Dude, this guy's a total POS. Just completely, not furthering society in any constructive direction whatsoever. Complete total loser. Thank you for the $100, Kathy. Stephanie, thank you so much for the $10, who says, I'm so sick of hearing men dismiss sexual exploitation if it only quote unquote occurs to women. Thank you for fighting back against this misogyny. This is rampant, vile, and violent misogyny. Thank you so much for the $10, Stephanie. Leah, thank you so much for the $40. Really appreciate you so much for the love. Leah, I just read your message. I appreciate you for your kindness. I want y'all to show some love to Leah down below in that comment section, as well as Vesna with the 25 and Morgan with a 5. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Karina with a $5 over on Venmo, who says, so with this man and his wife's logic, trans individuals in women's bathrooms should be fine too, right? No issue with that? Yeah, since anybody could go wherever the hell they want, regardless of how the people in the space or you feel, you're completely fine with trans women using the women's restroom, correct?
No.
Wait, why?
Okay, what is a woman, Dean?
Wait, something that Trump's definitely not. So I don't really think this argument of arguing that trans women aren't women is going to get you too far in this conversation, considering the fact that you're okay with Trump doing it. So trans women are women. I understand that you're going to say, what's a woman? Not a trans woman. Therefore, because they're a man, it's not okay for them to enter into the space. So now you're operating off of the principle that it's not okay for men to go into women's private spaces, meaning that you're not fine, and it is sexual exploitation for any man to do so, including Trump when he unconsensually barged into the women's private dressing room at Miss Teen USA, Miss USA, right?
What if all the women at Teen USA, Miss USA had dicks? Would that be okay?
Okay, well, it's definitely an interesting question, but no, it wouldn't be okay. What?
So, what's a woman?
What is a woman? A woman, according to my perspective, now you're not going to like this, you're going to crash the fuck out, would be...
Without using the word woman.
Oh, yeah, without using the word woman in the definition, a woman is an adult human individual that would hold to the social categories typically prescribed to the female sex. Now that we've... Oh, no. So I don't think that gender identity would be rooted in biological sex, but you're using this as a pivot. You're using this as a pivot because remember, I want you to respond to the point that I just made, right? You're arguing that it's not okay for trans women to go into the women's dressing room or restroom because you think they're men, right?
They are men.
So you're operating off of the principle that it's not okay for men to go into women's only spaces?
If a woman has a dick...
Wait, I just want to clarify. Are you operating, yes or no, off of the principle that it's not okay for men to go into women's only spaces?
It's not okay for a man with a dick to go into a locker room or a bathroom.
Got it. Is Trump a man with a dick?
He didn't go to a locker room.
Answer my question. Is Trump a man with a dick? Answer my question. Answer my question. Answer my question. Answer my question. Is Trump... Dude, no. Answer my question. Is Trump a man with a dick?
Did he go into
You're definitely not answering my question. I'm asking, you know I'm right. That's why you're not going to answer my question. My question is Trump a man with a dick?
Of course he has a
Jonathan,
dick.
thank you so much for the sports car. Okay, and the reason why you said it would be wrong for a man with a dick to go into a woman's locker room is because there's naked women in that space, right?
Yeah, naked women that obviously don't consent to being in there.
Okay. So there's naked women in that space. Therefore, it's not okay for the man with the dick to go in there. In the clip I played you from Howard Stern's show, Donald Trump says that there was naked women in this space with no men around, meaning it wasn't okay for Trump to go in there. You idiot. Oh my God, your brain cells working overtime just to deny common sense. I honestly, if reincarnation would be true, right? Dude, oh my God, I would do whatever I possibly could to expand this lifespan to the ultimate maximum so I could prevent even spending a second in your sad, sick, pitiful body. You absolute deplorable POS. You are wasting carbon emissions and perpetuating unnecessary climate change by breathing the oxygen in to exhale CO2 and speaking the words you are. There is no value that I could attain, right, from you as an individual, definitely in the context of this conversation. And wow, it is just incredible to see. It is incredibly pitiful, it is incredibly sorrowful, and it is incredibly harmful to every single woman and girl because you are explicitly permitting the little cuck you are explicitly permitting sexual violence against women and girls because you think that Daddy Trump did it, therefore it's okay. Bow to the Almighty, kneel to the God of men, right? The sick, twisted 34-count felon that's passing regressive economic policy that's likely fucking you over as an average or low-income American. Kneel to the Almighty. Do it some more, sir.
That really hurt my feelings, Dean.
Well, honestly, I don't think it did. I don't think anything can hurt your feelings, right? Because you don't...
You're right, because I'm a man. I'm a little bitch. Of course it didn't hurt my...
Right, yeah, nothing could hurt your feelings. And the reason why nothing could hurt your feelings is because because in order to have your feelings hurt, you have to like introspect upon something that someone else said to you. And I just think you lack that ability, point blank, period. Nothing can hurt your feelings for the same reason you can't critically think.
I am very empathetic, Dean. But women at a backstage at a beauty pageant are...
Shut up. Got more people to thank. Kimberly, thank you for the $5. Appreciate you so much for the love. Vanessa, thank you for the $5 as well. Allison with the $5. Thank you so much, Allison. Sarah with the $5. Amanda with the $11. Thank you so much for the love. Amanda with the $11 says, could you please tell the weirdos that unironically using the term beta is the biggest sick to all rational women? Yeah. Lindsay, thank you so much for the $10 over on Venmo, who says, I would choose the bear over this man 1,000%. Make that 10,000%, Lindsay, and I'm right there with you. Thank you for the $10. Angie, thank you for the $5, who says, the guest is defending the equivalent of a male gym owner walking into the woman's locker room simply because he owns it. Yep. Jen, thank you so much for the $15 over on Venmo, who says, Ooga Booga, caveman, I like boobs, just made my month. Embarrass the beta again. Well, I hope you like what you just saw, Jen. Thank you for the $15. Matt, thank you. Allie, thank you for the $15, who says, many straight women don't understand consent unless you put them in the same hypothetical scenario with a gay man, then suddenly they get it. Please start asking this way when the debate what harassment / sexual exploitation is. I don't think I really even followed that, but Matt, thank you so much for the $5 as well. Crony with the $2. Sammy, thank you for the $10. Who says, do you think that even after Trump is long gone, POS is like this guy will still try to defend Trump and everything he's done? Yeah, absolutely. Courtney, thank you for the $10. Who says, for tirelessly explaining consent and respecting women to men, they make me want to cry. Thank you for being here, Courtney. Thank you for the $10. Allison with the $10 as well. Claire with the $20. Who says, current 4th-year medical student who will be a pediatrician in 6 months. Thank you for giving me hope to continue to fight this fight as well and advocating for creating a better life for our world, especially the children in the world that I take care of every day in our future. Thank you for the $20, Claire. Lauren with the $5 saying, keep it up. Thank you so much for the love. Daniel with the $5. Angelina with a 1. Jackson with a 5. And Eric, thank you so much for the $50 over on Venmo. Show some love to Eric down below in that chat, you guys. Thank you so much, Eric. Eric with the $50 says, to be this informant, articulate at 21 is genuinely impressive, and I respect you. Thank you so much, Eric. Then Lynn with the 10. Thank you guys so much. We're all caught up over on Venmo, but I bet we just got a whole bunch of more in. We got a couple more people to thank here. Do give me a second. Please do give me a moment here, everybody. Jen, thank you so much for the $1 over on Venmo. Dorian, thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo, who says, please get this guy out of here. His exposure to the world has been enough. That's going to be coming soon, Dorian. Thank you for the $20. Show some love to Dorian in that chat. Sarah with the $10 who says, I was raped by a guy like this when I was 14 and he was 20. The normalization of sexual exploitation makes my experience far too common. Fuck this guy. Sarah, I'm really sorry to hear that happened to you, and you are completely spot on when you say that this guy's words and actions are normalizing sexual violence. Completely correct, Sarah. Thank you for the $10. Abby, thank you for the 5. Champs, thank you so much for the $100 over on Venmo. Champs, oh my God, dude, thank you. That is CHAMCE with $100. Says, I love that you got this beta guest to say that he'd be okay with somebody walking in on his wife changing. I suspect that he will sleep on the couch tonight instead of something else I'm not going to read. But no, I don't think he's going to be sleeping on his couch. His wife doesn't care. Thank you for the $100, Champs. And then Ali, thank you for the $20 on Venmo, who says, glorious rant, 10 out of 10. Madison, thank you so much, Ali. Good to see you. Then Madison with the $10 who says, women's spaces are supposed to be sacred. Hearing another woman defend the exploitation against other women is devastating. Thank you so much for always standing with women. I'm always going to side with common sense. I'm always going to stand with common decency and stand against like shitty tyrants like this guest. Then Catherine with the $10 who says, fellas, is it gay to critically think? Guess so. And then Phil, thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo, who says, Colt's gonna Colt. Maga so fucking pathetic and embarrassing. Couldn't have said it better myself, my friend. 110%. Then also, let's see here. Leah, thank you so much for the... Oh, wait, actually, I did thank you earlier, but thank you so much for the love, Leah. Who else do we have here? Madison, thank you for the $5 over on PayPal. Adine, thank you for the 5. Michael, thank you so much for the $20 on PayPal, saying that he's a cuck. I appreciate you for that love, Michael. Show some love to Michael. Dolores, thank you so much for the $20 over on PayPal, who says even Trump said nobody's allowed back there. Yeah, even Trump fucking said that. Thank you for the $20, Dolores. Then Laura with a $20, sorry, not Laura, Asher with a $20, who says, if it's okay for a random man to do at a beauty pageant to barge in on the changing room, but then by that logic, what's stopping teachers or principals or coaches, etc., from going into the locker rooms at school? Nothing according to his logic. Thank you for the $20, Asher. Darja, thank you for the $11. Thank you so much. Catherine with the $10. Thank you so much. Anna with the $20. Thank you. And Anna, I'm not even going to ask him that question because I'm scared of his response, but thank you so much for the $20. Then Hayden, I really appreciate you so much for the $5 as well. We are all caught up over on Venmo and PayPal. I seriously really appreciate everyone so much for the crazy amount of love. Now, do you guys want to see something cool? That I just wanted, so he was just waiting super patiently to be able to continue our conversation while I was thanking everybody. But I made sure to leave him up here like while I was doing that. Once again, thank you guys seriously for the love. Like unironically, thank you guys so much. You guys have been popping the, I don't even know what to say. Thank you guys so much for all the love and the kindness over on Venmo and PayPal. But I just wanted to waste his time then kick him.